Samuel Sam Carter wiped the dust from his weathered face as his horse slowed to a walking pace. The Arizona Territory stretched endlessly before him, a harsh landscape of red rocks and thorny bushes that most men found unforgiving. But Sam had learned to read this land like others read books. Every shadow told him where water might be found. Every bird's flight pattern warned him of dangers ahead. It was 1885, and Sam had been riding the frontier for nearly 15 years. He wasn't like most cowboys who drifted from ranch to ranch. Sam had a different story, one that began when he was barely 20 years old and made a choice that changed his life forever. Back then, Sam worked for the Double R Ranch in New Mexico. He was cocky, quick with his gun, and thought he knew everything about surviving in the wild. That was before he met Maria Delgado, the daughter of a Mexican rancher who lived near the Apache territories. Maria had long black hair that shone like silk in the sunlight and eyes that seemed to hold all the mysteries of the desert. Sam fell in love with Maria the moment he saw her at the trading post in Silver Creek. She was buying supplies for her father's ranch, speaking in rapid Spanish to the store owner. When their eyes met, Sam felt something he had never experienced before. It wasn't just her beauty that captivated him, but something deeper, a strength that reminded him of the untamed land around them. For months, Sam found excuses to ride near the Delgado Ranch. He would stop by to check on their cattle, offer help with repairs, or simply bring news from town. Maria's father, Don Eduardo, was suspicious at first. He had seen too many young cowboys who thought they could charm his daughter and then disappear when life got difficult. But Sam was different. He learned Spanish to talk with Maria's family. He helped during the difficult calving season without being asked. When bandits threatened the Delgado Ranch, Sam rode through the night to bring help from the local sheriff. Slowly, Don Eduardo began to see that this young cowboy was serious about his daughter. Maria and Sam were married in the spring of 1873 in a small ceremony at the local church. The celebration lasted 3 days, with music, dancing, and enough food to feed half the territory. Sam had never been so happy. He built a small house near the Delgado Ranch where he and Maria planned to start their own cattle operation. But happiness in the frontier was often short-lived. The Apache tribes in the area were being pushed off their traditional lands by settlers and the U.S. Army. Some Apache groups chose to fight back, raiding settlements and ranches. The situation grew more dangerous each month. One hot summer day, Sam was out checking their cattle in the eastern pasture when he heard gunshots coming from the direction of his house. His heart stopped. Maria was there alone, making bread for their evening meal. Sam spurred his horse into a full gallop, racing across the rough terrain as fast as his mount could carry him. When he reached the house, smoke was rising from the windows. The front door hung open, broken off its hinges. Sam's worst fears were realized when he found the house ransacked and empty. Maria was gone. Tracks around the house told the story. Apache raiders had taken her. The hoofprints led north, toward the mountains where the Apache tribes had hidden camps. Sam knew that by the time he could gather a posse from town, the trail would be cold, and Maria would be lost forever. Against all common sense, Sam decided to track them alone. He packed his guns, some food and water, then followed the trail into Apache territory. For 3 days, he rode through country that few white men had ever seen and returned to tell about it. The landscape grew wilder and more dangerous with each mile. On the 4th day, Sam's horse stepped into a prairie dog hole and broke its leg. Sam had to shoot the animal, leaving him on foot in hostile territory with limited supplies. He was at least 30 miles from the nearest settlement, with Apache warriors somewhere ahead of him and no way to continue the chase. As Sam sat beside his dead horse, wondering if he would ever see civilization again, he heard voices approaching. He grabbed his rifle and took cover behind some rocks, expecting the worst. But when the voices came closer, he realized they weren't war cries or threats. Someone was singing a low melodic chant that seemed to blend with the desert wind. 3 Apache warriors emerged from behind a ridge, leading their horses and moving at an easy pace. Sam held his breath, knowing that if they spotted him, he would likely not survive the encounter. But as they drew nearer, something unexpected happened. The lead warrior stopped suddenly and held up his hand. He had seen something, but instead of reaching for his weapon, he spoke in a calm voice to his companions. Then, to Sam's complete shock, the warrior called out to him in broken English, "White man behind rocks, come out, we not hurt you." Sam faced an impossible choice. He could stay hidden and hope they would pass by, but they had already spotted him. He could try to fight, but 3 against 1 in their own territory meant certain death. Or he could trust that these Apache warriors meant what they said. Slowly, Sam stood up with his hands visible but keeping his rifle ready. The 3 warriors studied him carefully. They were younger than he expected, probably in their 20s like himself. Their faces showed curiosity rather than hostility. The one who had spoken approached cautiously. He pointed to Sam's broken-down saddle and dead horse, then gestured toward the mountains. He said something in Apache, then tried again in English. "You follow Apache tracks. You look for woman." Sam's heart jumped. These warriors knew about Maria. He nodded slowly, not sure if admitting the truth would help or hurt his chances. "Yes," Sam said. "My wife. Apache take her 4 days ago." The 3 warriors spoke among themselves in their own language. Sam caught some familiar words that Maria had taught him from her interactions with Apache traders who sometimes visited her father's ranch. The conversation seemed to go on forever, with gestures and what appeared to be some kind of debate. Finally, the leader turned back to Sam. "You come with us. Chief decide what to do with you." Sam realized he had no choice. These warriors could have killed him already if that was their intention. His only hope of finding Maria lay in their hands. He nodded his agreement. "I come with you." The warrior, who seemed to be the leader, gestured for Sam to walk between 2 of them, while the 3rd brought up the rear. They set off toward the mountains at a steady pace that Sam found difficult to match. The Apache moved across the rough ground like they were floating, while Sam stumbled and struggled to keep up. As they walked, the lead warrior began to talk. His English was limited, but Sam gradually understood that his name was Nightwolf, and he was the son of the chief of their band. The other 2 warriors were his cousins, Gray Fox and Standing Bear. "Why you alone?" Nightwolf asked as they climbed a steep trail between red rock formations. "White men always come many when Apache take their women." Sam explained about his horse and his decision to track the raiders without waiting for help. Nightwolf translated for the others, who seemed surprised by Sam's actions. "You brave," Nightwolf said. "Maybe foolish, but brave." They walked for hours through country that grew increasingly spectacular and dangerous. Deep canyons opened beside the narrow trails, and eagles soared overhead. Sam began to understand why the Apache fought so hard to keep this land. It was beautiful in a way that took his breath away, but it was also unforgiving to anyone who didn't know its secrets. As the sun began to set, they reached a hidden valley where smoke rose from cooking fires. The Apache camp was larger than Sam had expected, with perhaps 50 people, including women, children, and elderly members of the tribe. Everyone stopped what they were doing to stare at the white cowboy walking into their midst. Nightwolf led Sam to a large teepee decorated with painted symbols and eagle feathers. He spoke to someone inside, and after a moment, an older Apache man emerged. This was clearly the chief, a man with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. His presence commanded immediate respect from everyone in the camp. The chief looked Sam up and down, taking in his dusty clothes, his guns, and his sunburned face. He spoke to Nightwolf in Apache, asking questions that Sam couldn't understand but could guess at. Who was this white man? Why had they brought him here? What should be done with him? Nightwolf explained about finding Sam tracking the war party, about his dead horse and his search for his wife. The chief listened carefully, occasionally glancing at Sam with an expression that revealed nothing. Finally, the chief spoke directly to Sam in surprisingly good English. "I am Chief Running Bear. My son tells me you seek Apache who took your woman. This is dangerous thing for white man to do alone." Sam swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. I know it's dangerous. But she's my wife. I couldn't just let her disappear. Many white men lose women to Apache raids. They bring soldiers, they burn our camps, they kill our children. You come alone with no army. Why?" Sam thought carefully about his answer. His life might depend on getting this right. "Because I love her. And because bringing soldiers would mean war. And war kills people on both sides who don't deserve to die." Chief Running Bear studied Sam for a long moment. Then he said something that changed everything. "The war party that took your woman, they not from our band. They from Red Cloud's group 2 days north. Red Cloud not listen to treaty. He makes his own war." Sam's heart sank. If Maria was with a rogue band of Apache warriors, her chances of survival had just gotten much worse. "But," the chief continued, "Red Cloud has something that makes him listen sometimes. You understand Apache ways?" Sam shook his head. "I'm learning, sir. My wife taught me some Spanish and some Apache words she knew, but I don't understand your customs." Chief Running Bear nodded. "Apache people, we believe in signs. Spirits speak through symbols, through dreams, through marks on the body. Red Cloud, he respects the old ways, even when he makes war." The chief walked closer to Sam, studying his face and arms. "You have marks on your skin that speak to Apache spirits?" Sam was confused. "Marks? Sir? What white men call tattoos. Pictures cut into skin with ink and needles." Sam shook his head. "No, sir. I don't have any tattoos." Chief Running Bear looked disappointed. He spoke to Nightwolf in Apache, and Sam could tell the conversation wasn't going well for him. "My father says Red Cloud might listen if you had proper Apache markings on your skin," Nightwolf translated. "Without them, he will see you only as enemy to be killed." Sam felt his hopes slipping away. "Is there any way to get these markings? I'll do whatever it takes to get my wife back." The chief and Nightwolf had another long conversation in Apache. Other members of the tribe gathered around to listen, including several women who seemed to be arguing passionately about something. Sam caught a few words he recognized, but not enough to understand what was being decided. Finally, Chief Running Bear turned back to him. "Apache tattoos not just pictures. They tell story of man's spirit, his courage, his place in tribe. You cannot just take them like you take hat or boots." Sam's heart sank further. But then the chief continued. "However, you show courage coming here alone. You show respect for Apache people by not bringing soldiers. Maybe spirits brought you here for reason." The chief called over an elderly Apache woman whose face was marked with intricate geometric tattoos around her eyes and chin. She looked at Sam carefully, walking around him and studying his features. She spoke to the chief in Apache, her voice rising and falling in what sounded like a chant. "Grandmother Singing Bird says you have spirit of eagle," Nightwolf translated. "She says spirits told her in dream that marked white man would help our people avoid great war." Sam didn't understand what was happening, but he could sense that it was important. Chief Running Bear made his decision. "You stay in our camp 3 days. Grandmother Singing Bird will give you marks that Red Cloud will respect. But you must understand, these not just decoration. You take Apache tattoos, you take Apache responsibilities, you become brother to our people." Sam realized this was his only chance to save Maria. "What does that mean, sir? Being brother to your people?" Means you never make war against Apache again. Means you help Apache when you can. Means you carry our spirits with you always. Sam didn't hesitate. I accept, sir. Whatever it takes to get my wife back. That night, Sam sat by the fire with Chief Running Bear and several elders of the tribe. They told him stories about Apache history, about the symbols that would be tattooed on his arms, and about the responsibilities he was taking on. The process would be painful and dangerous, they warned him. Some men died from the infection that could follow the tattooing. But if he survived, he would carry marks that no Apache warrior would dare to ignore. Grandmother Singing Bird prepared her tools with great ceremony. She used needles made from sharp cactus thorns and ink created from charcoal, plant dyes, and sacred clay. The designs she would create were not random decorations, but specific symbols that told a story. On Sam's right arm, she would tattoo a soaring eagle, representing his courage and his journey into Apache territory. On his left arm, she would create the symbol of the thunder god, showing that he had been accepted by the spirits. Around his wrists, she would add geometric patterns that marked him as a brother to Chief Running Bear's band. The tattooing began at dawn on Sam's second day in the camp. Grandmother Singing Bird chanted as she worked, calling on the spirits to guide her hands and protect Sam from harm. The pain was unlike anything Sam had ever experienced. Each poke of the needle felt like a fire ant's bite, and as the hours passed, his arms became swollen and burning. But Sam gritted his teeth and endured. Every line of ink brought him closer to Maria. Around him, Apache children watched in fascination as the white cowboy transformed into something their people would recognize and respect. By the end of the third day, the tattoos were complete. Sam's arms were covered with intricate Apache designs that seemed to move and dance in the firelight. Grandmother Singing Bird pronounced the work good, saying that the spirits had guided her hands and blessed the markings. Chief Running Bear examined the finished tattoos with approval. Now you carry Apache power with you. Red Cloud will see these marks and know that you are not ordinary white man. He will listen to your words. Nightwolf and his two cousins volunteered to guide Sam to Red Cloud's camp. They would travel at night to avoid army patrols, moving through country that only Apache warriors knew how to navigate safely. As Sam prepared to leave the friendly camp, he realized how much he had learned in just 3 days. The Apache people weren't the savage enemies he had been taught to fear. They were families protecting their homeland, people with complex beliefs and traditions, human beings trying to survive in a world that was changing too fast for them to understand. The tattoos on his arms were still tender and healing, but they represented more than just his ticket to negotiate with Red Cloud. They marked his transformation from a simple cowboy into someone who understood that there were many ways to see the world, many ways to be brave, and many paths to finding the truth. The journey to Red Cloud's territory took Sam and his Apache guides through some of the most dangerous country in the Southwest. They traveled only at night, hiding during the day in caves and canyon overhangs that Nightwolf seemed to know by instinct. The healing tattoos on Sam's arms burned constantly, but Grandmother Singing Bird had given him a pouch of healing herbs to prevent infection. On the second night of travel, they encountered their first real test. As they crossed a wide valley under the moonlight, Gray Fox suddenly raised his hand and pointed toward a distant ridge. Sam squinted into the darkness and saw the faint glow of campfires. "Army patrol," Nightwolf whispered. "Major Thompson's company. They hunt Apache for 3 weeks now." Sam knew Major Thompson by reputation. He was a career soldier who believed the only good Apache was a dead Apache. If Thompson's men found them traveling together, they would shoot first and ask questions later. "We go around," Standing Bear suggested, pointing toward a longer route through rougher terrain. But Nightwolf shook his head. "Take too long. White woman with Red Cloud not have much time. Red Cloud not patient man." Sam felt a chill at those words. What do you mean she doesn't have much time? Nightwolf looked uncomfortable. Red Cloud, he not keep white captives long. Either trade them quick or... He didn't finish the sentence, but Sam understood. Then we go straight through, Sam said. I'll walk ahead. If they see me first, they might not shoot immediately. Too dangerous, Gray Fox protested. Soldiers see Apache with white man. They think you prisoner trying to escape. They kill all of us. Sam thought quickly. Not if I'm leading you. If it looks like I captured you instead of the other way around. It was a desperate plan, but Nightwolf nodded slowly. Might work. You speak to soldiers, tell them you caught 3 Apache scouts. We pretend to be your prisoners. They spent precious minutes working out the details. Sam would walk in front with his rifle visible but not aimed. Nightwolf and his cousins would follow with their hands tied behind their backs with leather strips that they could slip out of quickly if needed. If things went wrong, they would scatter in 3 different directions, and each man would try to make it to Red Cloud's camp on his own. As they approached the army camp, Sam's heart pounded so hard he was sure the sentries would hear it. A voice called out from the darkness, "Halt! Who goes there?" "Sam Carter, civilian scout," Sam called back. "I've got 3 Apache prisoners." A soldier emerged from behind a rock formation with his rifle trained on the group. "Step into the light where I can see you." Sam walked into the glow of the campfire, hoping his dusty cowboy clothes and white skin would convince the soldier he was legitimate. Behind him, Nightwolf and his cousins played their parts perfectly, looking defeated and sullen. "Where did you catch these Apache?" the soldier asked suspiciously. "About 10 miles south," Sam lied smoothly. "They were trying to steal cattle from the Martinez ranch." The soldier studied the 3 Apache warriors, then looked at Sam more carefully. "You don't look like any scout I know. What outfit you with?" Sam's mind raced. "I'm not military. I'm a civilian contractor working for the territorial government. These 3 have information about Red Cloud's location." At the mention of Red Cloud's name, the soldier's attention sharpened. "Red Cloud. Major Thompson's been hunting that devil for weeks. You better come talk to him." This was exactly what Sam had hoped to avoid. Major Thompson would ask too many questions and probably recognize that something wasn't right about the situation, but they were in too deep to back out now. The soldier led them to a large tent in the center of the camp. "Major Thompson, sir. Civilian here says he's caught 3 Apache with information about Red Cloud." Major Thompson emerged from his tent, a tall man with gray hair and cold blue eyes that missed nothing. He looked Sam up and down, then studied the 3 Apache prisoners with professional interest. "Civilian contractor, are you?" Thompson said. "I know every scout and contractor working in this territory. Never seen you before." Sam tried to stay calm. "I just signed on with the territorial office last month, sir. Name's Sam Carter." Thompson walked around the group, examining them from different angles. When he got close to Sam, his eyes fixed on something that made Sam's blood turn cold. "Interesting tattoos you've got there, Carter." Thompson's voice was dangerously quiet. "Fresh ones by the look of them. Where did you get Apache markings put on your arms?" The camp fell silent. Every soldier was now staring at Sam's exposed arms, where the healing tattoos were clearly visible in the firelight. Sam realized his desperate plan was falling apart. "I can explain that, sir," Sam said, but Thompson cut him off. "I bet you can. Sergeant Williams, tie this man up. These aren't prisoners, they're his Apache friends." The soldiers moved quickly to surround the group. Sam knew they had only seconds before the situation became deadly. He caught Nightwolf's eye and nodded slightly. "Now!" Sam shouted. Everything happened at once. Nightwolf and his cousins slipped their bonds and dove in different directions. Sam grabbed his rifle and fired a shot over the soldiers' heads to create confusion. In the chaos that followed, the 4 men scattered into the darkness beyond the camp. Sam ran harder than he had ever run in his life, crashing through brush and leaping over rocks in the moonlight. Behind him, he could hear Major Thompson shouting orders and the sound of soldiers mounting their horses. They had maybe a 10-minute head start before the cavalry would be chasing them. Sam ran for what felt like hours, following a dry creek bed that Nightwolf had pointed out earlier as an escape route. His lungs burned and his legs felt like they were made of lead, but he kept moving. Maria was somewhere ahead in Red Cloud's camp, and every minute counted. Finally, when Sam couldn't run anymore, he collapsed behind a boulder to catch his breath. The tattoos on his arms throbbed with each heartbeat, but they had probably saved his life. Major Thompson's recognition of the Apache symbols had blown their cover, but it had also convinced the officer that Sam was truly connected to the Apache people. As dawn broke over the mountains, Sam heard a familiar whistle from somewhere nearby. It was Nightwolf's signal, a sound that imitated a desert bird. Sam whistled back, and within minutes, all four men had found each other in a small canyon hidden from the soldiers. "That was close," Gray Fox said, checking a cut on his arm from diving through a thorny bush. "Too close," Nightwolf agreed. "But now we know Army is between us and Red Cloud. Must be more careful." They spent the day hidden in the canyon, taking turns keeping watch for Army patrols. Sam used the time to ask more questions about Red Cloud and what they could expect when they reached his camp. "Red Cloud not like other Apache chiefs," Standing Bear explained. "He believes white man and Apache cannot live in same world. One must destroy other." "Why did he take Maria?" Sam asked. "What does he want with her?" Nightwolf looked uncomfortable. "Red Cloud sometimes take white women to trade for Apache prisoners held by Army. Sometimes he take them to send message to white settlements, make them afraid." "And sometimes?" Sam pressed. "Sometimes he kill them to show Apache warriors that he not afraid of white man's revenge." Sam felt sick to his stomach. They were running out of time, and the Army patrol had put them even further behind schedule. As the sun set, they resumed their journey toward Red Cloud's stronghold. The landscape grew even more rugged and desolate. They were entering country that most maps showed as blank space, regions where only Apache warriors dared to travel. On the third night after the encounter with Major Thompson's soldiers, they finally reached the approach to Red Cloud's territory. Nightwolf called a halt at the edge of a vast canyon system that seemed to swallow the moonlight. "Red Cloud's camp in there," he pointed toward the dark canyon. "Very dangerous place, easy to defend, impossible to attack. Perfect for war chief who fights both Army and other Apache bands." "How do we get in?" Sam asked. "We don't," Nightwolf said. "You go alone from here. Red Cloud not trust other Apache from different bands. He think we might be spies from Chief Running Bear." Sam's heart sank. He had counted on Nightwolf's help in negotiating with Red Cloud. Now he would have to face the war chief alone, with nothing but the healing tattoos on his arms and his desperate love for Maria. "How will I find the camp?" Sam asked. Nightwolf pointed to a narrow trail that led down into the canyon. "Follow that path. Red Cloud's scouts will find you before you find them. When they do, show them your markings and tell them you seek counsel with their chief. If they don't kill you immediately, you might have chance." Gray Fox stepped forward and handed Sam a small leather pouch. "Sacred corn pollen. Sprinkle on ground when you meet Red Cloud. Show respect for Apache spirits." Standing Bear gave Sam a single eagle feather. "Gift for war chief. Show you understand Apache ways." The three Apache warriors said their farewells and melted back into the darkness, leaving Sam alone at the edge of the canyon. He checked his weapons, adjusted his hat, and started down the treacherous trail into Red Cloud's domain. The path was barely wide enough for one man, with sheer drops on both sides that disappeared into blackness. Sam had to feel his way carefully, testing each step before putting his full weight on the crumbling rock. One slip would mean a fall of hundreds of feet onto the jagged stones below. As he descended into the canyon, Sam became aware that he was being watched. He couldn't see anyone, but he could feel eyes tracking his movement. Red Cloud scouts were out there somewhere, deciding whether to let him pass or put an arrow through his heart. After what felt like hours of careful climbing, Sam reached the canyon floor. A thin stream of water ran between towering rock walls that blocked out most of the starlight. The air was cooler here, and Sam could smell wood smoke drifting from somewhere ahead. "Stop where you are, white man." The voice came from directly in front of him, but Sam couldn't see who had spoken. He raised his hands to show he meant no harm. "I seek counsel with Chief Red Cloud," Sam called out. "I come in peace." "You come as spy for army," a different voice accused from somewhere off to his right. "We saw you with soldiers 3 days ago." Sam's heart jumped. Red Cloud's scouts had been watching the encounter with Major Thompson's patrol. They knew he had been traveling with Apache guides, but they also knew about his confrontation with the army. "I was not with the soldiers," Sam said carefully. "I was escaping from them, just as you saw." "Then why do you carry their weapons? Why do you wear white man's clothes?" Sam realized his rifle and pistol made him look like a threat. Slowly, he lowered his hands and began to remove his gun belt. "I am Cowboy, not soldier," he said. "I seek Red Cloud because your warriors took my wife. I come to make trade, not war." There was a long silence. Sam stood motionless, holding his weapons away from his body to show he was not preparing to fight. Finally, a figure emerged from the shadows ahead of him. It was an Apache warrior, younger than Sam, but carrying himself with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. War paint covered half his face, and his eyes glittered with suspicion and hostility. "You lie, white man. No white cowboy travels with Apache guides. No white cowboy carries Apache markings on his skin." The warrior had seen the tattoos. Sam rolled up his sleeves to display them fully in the dim light. "These markings were given to me by Chief Running Bear and Grandmother Singing Bird," Sam said. "They mark me as brother to Apache people." The warrior stepped closer, studying the fresh tattoos with obvious surprise. He called out something in Apache, and 2 more warriors appeared from concealment. They gathered around Sam, examining his arms and speaking rapidly in their own language. After several minutes of discussion, the first warrior made a decision. "You come with us. Chief Red Cloud will decide if you speak truth or if you die." They bound Sam's hands behind his back and took his weapons, then led him deeper into the canyon. The path wound between massive rock formations and through narrow passages that would be impossible to find without a guide. Sam began to understand why the army had never been able to locate Red Cloud's stronghold. Finally, they emerged into a hidden valley, where cooking fires cast dancing shadows on the canyon walls. Red Cloud's camp was larger than Chief Running Bear's settlement, with perhaps 100 warriors and their families. But where Running Bear's camp had felt peaceful, this place thrummed with the tension of war. Warriors sharpened their weapons by the firelight. Women worked on war paint and ceremonial dress. Children played games that involved stalking and fighting. This was a community preparing for battle. Sam was led to the largest tipi in the camp, one decorated with the scalps of enemies and painted with symbols of war and death. A voice from inside called out in Apache, and the warriors pushed Sam through the entrance. The interior of the teepee was lit by a small fire that threw enormous shadows on the walls. Sitting across from the entrance was a man who could only be Red Cloud himself. The war chief was not what Sam had expected. He was smaller than Chief Running Bear, with graying hair and a face marked by old scars, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made Sam's blood run cold. This was a man who had seen too much war, too much death, too much betrayal. He had moved beyond anger into something much more dangerous. Red Cloud studied Sam for a long moment without speaking. Then he said something in Apache to the warriors who had brought him. They responded by forcing Sam to his knees and holding knives to his throat. "You are the white cowboy who seeks his woman," Red Cloud said in perfect English. "My scouts tell me you travel with Running Bear's people. They tell me you carry Apache markings on your skin. They also tell me you were with Army Patrol 3 nights ago." Sam swallowed hard, feeling the sharp steel against his neck. "Chief Red Cloud, I was not with the Army. I was their prisoner, just as you can make me your prisoner now. The soldiers wanted to capture me because I carry these Apache tattoos." Red Cloud leaned forward to examine the markings on Sam's arms. His expression showed surprise and what might have been grudging respect. "These are not white man's decorations," he said finally. "These are sacred Apache symbols, made in the old way by one who knows the spirits. How does White Cowboy come to wear such markings?" Sam explained his story, starting with Maria's capture and his decision to track the raiders alone. He told Red Cloud about his meeting with Chief Running Bear, about Grandmother Singing Bird's prophecy, and about the 3 days of painful tattooing that had transformed him into a brother to the Apache people. Red Cloud listened without interruption, his face showing no emotion. When Sam finished, the war chief sat in silence for several minutes, staring into the fire as if seeking guidance from the spirits. "Your woman," Red Cloud said finally. "She is here in my camp. She is alive, but she will not remain so for long." Sam's heart leaped with hope and fear. "Please, Chief Red Cloud, what do you want for her safe return? I'll pay any price." Red Cloud's laugh was harsh and bitter. "Price? White man always thinks Apache can be bought like goods in trading post. Your people have taken our land, killed our children, broken every treaty they ever made with us. What price can you pay for such crimes?" "I don't speak for all white people," Sam said desperately. "I only speak for myself. I've never made war on the Apache. I've never broken any treaties. I just want my wife back. And I want my son back," Red Cloud suddenly roared, his composure cracking for the first time. "Army soldiers killed him last month when he was hunting deer to feed his children. I want my brother back, killed by settlers who stole his horses. I want my father back, dead from white man's diseases. What price will you pay for their lives?" Sam realized he was facing grief as much as anger. Red Cloud wasn't just a war chief seeking revenge. He was a man who had lost everything he loved to a conflict he never wanted, but could not escape. "I cannot bring back your family," Sam said quietly, "but killing my wife will not bring them back either. It will only create more grief, more war, more death on both sides." Red Cloud studied Sam's face, searching for something. "You think like Apache now. Maybe your markings have changed more than your skin." The war chief stood and walked to the entrance of the teepee. He called out something in Apache, and within moments, Sam heard footsteps approaching. A figure was pushed through the entrance, and Sam's heart almost stopped. It was Maria, alive but looking exhausted and frightened. Her clothes were torn and her face was pale, but her eyes were still bright with the spirit he remembered. "Sam!" she cried, trying to run to him, but the Apache warriors held her back. "Maria!" Sam struggled against his bonds, desperate to hold her. "Are you hurt? Have they—" "I'm all right," she said quickly. "They haven't harmed me, but Sam, what are you doing here? How did you find me?" Before Sam could answer, Red Cloud raised his hand for silence. "Enough. You see your woman is alive. Now we discuss terms for her freedom." The war chief returned to his place by the fire. "Your Apache markings show you are brother to Running Bear's band. But they mean nothing to me unless you prove your Apache heart as well as Apache skin." "What do you want me to prove?" Sam asked. Red Cloud smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Tomorrow, white man who calls himself Apache brother will face test. If you pass, your woman goes free. If you fail, you both die, and I send your scalps to Major Thompson as gift." Sam felt Maria stiffen with fear beside him. What kind of test? Apache test, Red Cloud said. Test of courage, skill, and wisdom. You will face challenges that separate true warriors from those who only wear warriors' markings. The war chief gestured to his warriors, who began to drag Sam and Maria from the teepee. Rest tonight, Red Cloud called after them. Tomorrow we see if White Cowboy truly has Apache spirit, or if Grandmother Singing Bird's tattoos were wasted on coward's skin. As they were led to a smaller teepee and left under guard, Sam held Maria close for the first time in over a week. I was so afraid I'd never see you again, she whispered against his chest. I promised I'd find you, Sam replied. I just didn't expect it to be this complicated. Sam, these tattoos on your arms, what have you done? Sam explained quickly about his time with Chief Running Bear's band and the sacred markings that had gained him safe passage to Red Cloud's camp. But what kind of test is he talking about? Maria asked. What if you can't pass it? Sam held her tighter. Then at least we'll be together at the end. But Maria, I didn't come this far to give up now. Whatever Red Cloud has planned, I'll find a way to get us both out of here alive. Outside their teepee, Sam could hear Red Cloud's warriors preparing something. There were sounds of wood being cut, fires being built, and weapons being sharpened. Whatever test awaited him tomorrow, it was going to challenge every skill he had learned and every ounce of courage he possessed. The Apache tattoos on his arms seemed to pulse with their own heartbeat as Sam lay awake that night, holding his wife and preparing himself for the greatest challenge of his life. Dawn came too quickly for Sam Carter. He had barely slept, holding Maria close and trying to prepare himself mentally for whatever test Red Cloud had devised. The sound of drums echoing through the canyon told him that the Apache camp was already stirring to life. A warrior entered their teepee as the first rays of sunlight painted the canyon walls gold. Red Cloud calls for you, white man. Time for test has come. Sam kissed Maria gently. Whatever happens today, remember that I love you. I love you too, she whispered. Be careful, Sam. These people, they're not like Chief Running Bear's band. They've seen too much war. Sam was led to the center of the camp, where the entire tribe had gathered in a large circle. Red Cloud stood in the middle, dressed in full war regalia with eagle feathers in his hair and war paint covering his face. He looked like something from the old stories, a figure of legend and power. Apache brother, Red Cloud called out, his voice carrying clearly in the morning air. You come to my camp with sacred markings on your skin, claiming friendship with our people. Today you prove if these markings speak truth or lies. The crowd of Apache warriors, women and children watched intently as Red Cloud continued. Apache warrior must possess 3 things to be worthy of respect. First, he must have courage in the face of death. Second, he must have skill to survive in the wilderness. Third, he must have wisdom to make choices that serve his people. Today you face 3 tests, 1 for each requirement. Red Cloud gestured toward the eastern rim of the canyon, where Sam could see wooden poles arranged in some kind of structure. First test is test of courage. You will walk the death bridge. Sam's blood ran cold as he realized what Red Cloud meant. The Apache had built a narrow wooden bridge that spanned the deepest part of the canyon, where the walls dropped away for hundreds of feet. The bridge was barely wider than a man's foot and had no handholds or safety ropes. Many Apache warriors have died attempting the death bridge, Red Cloud explained. Only those with true courage and trust in the spirits can cross safely. If you fall, your body will feed the vultures, and your woman will join our tribe as captive forever. Sam looked up at the rickety bridge swaying in the morning wind. He had always been afraid of heights, but now his life and Maria's freedom depended on conquering that fear. I accept the first test, Sam said, trying to keep his voice steady. The crowd followed Red Cloud and Sam to the edge of the canyon. Where the death bridge stretched across the terrifying gap, Up close, it looked even more dangerous. The wooden planks were old and weathered, held together with rawhide bindings that creaked ominously in the wind. Red Cloud pointed to the far side of the canyon. "Cross to other side and back. If you succeed, you face second test. If you fall—" He shrugged as if Sam's death would be of no consequence. Sam approached the beginning of the bridge and looked down into the abyss below. His knees felt weak, and sweat broke out on his forehead despite the cool morning air. He thought about Maria, waiting in the camp with her life hanging in the balance. He thought about the Apache tattoos on his arms, marking him as a brother to these people. He thought about grandmother singing Bird's prophecy that he would help avoid a great war. Taking a deep breath, Sam stepped onto the first plank of the death bridge. The wood groaned under his weight, and the entire structure swayed sickeningly from side to side. Sam forced himself to look ahead rather than down, focusing on the far side of the canyon. One step at a time, he told himself. Just one step at a time. Halfway across, a sudden gust of wind set the bridge swaying so violently that Sam had to drop to his hands and knees to avoid being thrown off. The crowd gasped, and Sam heard Maria cry out his name, but he clung to the rough planks and waited for the motion to subside. When the bridge steadied, Sam continued forward on his hands and knees. His palms were scraped raw by the rough wood, and splinters bit into his skin. But slowly, agonizingly, he made progress toward the far side. When he finally reached the opposite edge of the canyon, Sam collapsed on solid ground, gasping for breath and trying not to think about having to make the return trip. But after only a few minutes' rest, he forced himself back onto the bridge. The return journey was even worse because now he could see the crowd watching him, including Maria's frightened face. The bridge seemed to sway more violently, and several of the wooden planks cracked ominously under his weight. But Sam kept moving, step by terrifying step. When he finally stumbled off the death bridge back to the starting point, the Apache crowd murmured with what sounded like approval. Even some of Red Cloud's fiercest warriors nodded respectfully. "First test complete," Red Cloud announced. "White man shows courage, but courage without skill is useless. Second test begins now." Red Cloud led the group to another part of the canyon where a series of challenges had been set up. Sam saw targets for bow and arrow shooting, a rope climbing challenge, and what looked like a maze marked out with rocks and thorny bushes. "Apache warrior must survive in wilderness with only his wits and skills," Red Cloud explained. "You will demonstrate tracking, hunting, fire-making, and navigation. You have until the sun reaches its highest point to complete all tasks. If you fail any one of them, test is over." A young Apache warrior stepped forward carrying a traditional bow and a quiver of arrows. "First, you must hit target from horseback while riding at full speed, just as Apache warrior hunts buffalo or fights enemies." Sam had done some bow hunting, but never from horseback, and never with an Apache war bow. The weapon was heavier and more powerful than any bow he had used before, requiring considerable strength just to draw the string back. They brought him a horse, a spirited pinto that danced nervously as Sam mounted. The target was a small piece of wood hanging from a wooden frame about 50 yards away. Sam would have to ride past it at full gallop and try to hit it with an arrow. His first attempt was a complete failure. The horse's motion threw off his aim so badly that the arrow missed the entire target frame. The Apache warriors watching made no attempt to hide their amusement. But Sam had grown up on horseback, and he understood the rhythm of a running horse. On his second attempt, he managed to time his shot better, and the arrow struck the wooden frame just inches from the target. On his third try, something clicked. Sam felt the motion of the horse beneath him, saw the target approaching, and released his arrow at exactly the right moment. The arrow struck the center of the target with a solid thunk, and even Red Cloud's warriors called out their approval. "Good," Red Cloud said. "Now you make fire without matches or flint. use only what Apache ancestors used. This was a skill Sam had learned during his 3 days with Chief Running Bear's band. Using a firebow and dry tinder, he managed to create a small flame within 10 minutes. It wasn't the fastest fire-making the Apache had ever seen, but it was respectable. The tracking challenge came next. Red Cloud's warriors had left a trail of footprints, broken twigs, and other signs leading through the rocky maze. Sam had to follow the trail to its end and bring back a specific item that had been hidden there. This was where his years of experience as a cowboy served him well. Sam had tracked lost cattle across hundreds of miles of rough country. The Apache Trail was more subtle than anything he had followed before, but the principles were the same. Disturbed soil here, a scuffed rock there, a bent blade of grass in another spot. Following the signs carefully, Sam worked his way through the maze and found the hidden item, a small carved wooden eagle. He brought it back to Red Cloud just as the sun reached its zenith. "Second test complete," Red Cloud announced. "White man shows skill as well as courage, but most important test remains. Test of wisdom." The war chief gestured for Sam to sit beside him in the center of the circle. The drums fell silent, and the entire camp seemed to hold its breath. "Wisdom cannot be tested with targets or bridges or trails," Red Cloud said. "Wisdom lives in heart and mind. I will tell you story, and you must choose how story ends. Your choice will show whether you truly understand Apache way or if you are still white man with decorated skin." Red Cloud began his tale in the traditional Apache manner, with ritual phrases and ceremonial pauses. "Long ago, there was young Apache warrior who loved the daughter of another tribe, but war came between their peoples, and many were killed on both sides. The warrior had chance to end the war by giving up the woman he loved, letting her marry chief of enemy tribe to make peace. Or he could steal her away and continue fighting until one tribe destroyed the other." Sam listened carefully, understanding that this was more than just a story. Red Cloud was asking him to choose between love and peace, between personal happiness and the greater good. "The warrior loved the woman more than his own life," Red Cloud continued. "But he also loved his people and did not want to see more children killed in war. What should warrior choose? Love or peace? His heart or his tribe?" The crowd waited in complete silence. Sam could feel Maria's eyes on him, along with the gaze of every Apache man, woman, and child in the camp. His answer would determine not just his own fate, but how Red Cloud viewed the possibility of peace between Apache and white settlers. Sam thought about his own journey to this moment. He had started as a simple cowboy who wanted to rescue his wife, but the Apache tattoos on his arms had changed him into something more. He had become a bridge between two worlds, a man who understood both the white settlers' need for land and the Apache people's need for freedom. "Chief Red Cloud," Sam said finally, "the warrior should choose peace, not because his love is unimportant, but because true love means protecting what you cherish most. If the warrior truly loves the woman, he will not let his selfish desires cause her people to be destroyed, and if he truly loves his own people, he will not let them die for his personal happiness." Red Cloud's face showed no emotion, but Sam could see something flickering in the war chief's eyes. And what if choosing peace means the warrior loses everything he values? What if the woman dies of grief? What if his own people call him coward for not fighting? "Then he bears that pain alone," Sam replied. "A true warrior's job is to protect others, even if it costs him everything. The spirits judge a man not by what he gains for himself, but by what he sacrifices for others." Red Cloud stood and walked around the circle, studying the faces of his people. Sam could see the war chief weighing his words, considering their implications not just for this test, but for the future of his tribe. Finally, Red Cloud returned to the center of the circle and raised his staff high above his head. "The white man with Apache markings has spoken with wisdom. He understands that courage without wisdom is just foolishness, and skill without wisdom is just danger. He has proven that the spirit spoke truly through Grandmother Singing Bird when she marked his skin. A cheer went up from the Apache crowd, and Sam felt a wave of relief wash over him. But Red Cloud held up his hand for silence. However, the war chief continued, understanding Apache wisdom and living Apache life are different things. You have passed 3 tests, but one choice remains. Red Cloud gestured, and several warriors brought Maria to the center of the circle. She looked frightened, but determined, her chin raised in defiance despite her circumstances. You may take your woman and leave our territory, Red Cloud said. Return to white man's world and forget you ever carried Apache markings. Or you may stay with us, live as Apache brother, and help our people find path to peace with white settlers. Choose now, and choose forever. Sam felt the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. If he left with Maria, they would be safe, but Red Cloud's war against the settlers would continue. More people would die on both sides. But if he stayed, he would be abandoning the life he had built with Maria for an uncertain future among people who might never fully accept him. He looked at Maria, trying to read her thoughts. She stepped forward and spoke directly to Red Cloud. Chief Red Cloud, may I speak? The war chief looked surprised but nodded. Apache women speak their minds. You may talk. My husband has Apache markings on his skin, but I have Apache spirit in my heart, Maria said. I grew up on the border between your world and mine. I have seen the pain that war brings to both peoples. If Sam chooses to stay and help make peace, then I choose to stay with him. We will be bridge between Apache and white settlers, just as the spirits intended. Red Cloud stared at Maria for a long moment, then threw back his head and laughed. The first genuine laughter Sam had heard from the war chief. The white woman speaks like Apache grandmother, Red Cloud said. She understands what many warriors do not. Peace is not weakness. It is the hardest path of all. The war chief turned back to Sam. Your woman chooses for both of you. She shows wisdom that matches your courage. Very well. You will stay in our territory, but not as prisoners. You will build ranch on border between Apache land and white settlements. You will teach white men that Apache are people, not animals. You will teach Apache that some white men can be trusted. You will be living treaty between our peoples. Over the following weeks, Sam and Maria worked with Red Cloud to establish their new home on a piece of land that bordered both Apache territory and white settlements. It was dangerous work, requiring them to win the trust of both communities. The Apache tattoos on Sam's arms opened doors that would have remained closed to any other white man. When Apache warriors came to trade or negotiate, they saw the sacred markings and knew that Sam understood their customs and beliefs. When white settlers saw him successfully dealing with Apache raiders without violence, they began to believe that peace might be possible. Maria proved just as valuable as a bridge between the two worlds. She spoke Spanish, English, and was learning Apache. Her medical knowledge, learned from her father and expanded through Apache teachings, made her welcome in both communities. Not everything went smoothly. There were settlers who thought Sam was a traitor for living peacefully with Apache bands. There were Apache warriors who believed he was a spy for the white government. But gradually, through patience and persistence, Sam and Maria built relationships with reasonable people on both sides. The ranch they established became a neutral meeting ground where disputes could be settled without violence. White ranchers would bring complaints about stolen cattle, and Apache representatives would explain their need for food during harsh winters. Through careful negotiation, solutions were found that satisfied both sides. Major Thompson and his cavalry troops remained hostile, but the territorial government began to see value in having peaceful relations with Apache tribes. Sam's reports about Apache customs and concerns helped officials understand that many conflicts arose from misunderstandings rather than genuine hostility. 5 years after that dramatic confrontation in Red Cloud's Canyon, Sam stood on the porch of his ranch house watching the sunset paint the mountains red and gold. The tattoos on his arms had faded somewhat, but were still clearly visible, still carrying the spiritual power that Grandmother Singing Bird had infused into them. Maria joined him on the porch, carrying their 2-year-old son, little Eduardo, who had his mother's dark hair and his father's blue eyes. On Eduardo's tiny arms were small temporary tattoos drawn with plant dyes, Apache symbols that would protect him from evil spirits, according to Grandmother Singing Bird, who had become like a second grandmother to the boy. "Any word from Red Cloud?" Maria asked, settling into the rocking chair that Sam had built for her. "His nephew stopped by this morning," Sam replied. "Red Cloud wants to meet with the territorial governor next month. He's ready to discuss a formal treaty." "Do you think it will work? A real peace agreement?" Sam thought about the question as he watched Apache riders in the distance, probably young warriors returning from a hunting expedition. They raised their hands in greeting as they passed the ranch, and Sam waved back. "It has to work," he said finally. "Too many people have died already. Red Cloud knows it, the governor knows it, even Major Thompson is starting to understand it. The old ways of solving problems with guns and armies aren't working anymore." That night, as Sam lay in bed listening to the coyotes howling in the distance, he touched the Apache tattoos on his arms and remembered the desperate cowboy who had ridden into Chief Running Bear's camp so many years ago. That man had been seeking only to rescue his wife. He had found something much more important, a purpose that was bigger than his own happiness. The tattoos had indeed become his salvation, but not in the way he had expected. They hadn't just helped him negotiate for Maria's freedom. They had transformed him into a man who could see beyond the boundaries of race and culture to the common humanity that connected all people. Sometimes Sam wondered what would have happened if he had made different choices. What if he had waited for a posse to track Maria's captors? What if he had refused Grandmother Singing Bird's offer to tattoo Apache symbols on his arms? What if he had taken Maria and left Red Cloud's territory when he had the chance? But those questions belonged to a different story, one about a different man. Sam Carter, the Apache-tattooed cowboy who had become a peacemaker between two worlds, had no regrets about the path he had chosen. The ranch prospered over the years, becoming a symbol of hope for both Apache and white communities. Children from both cultures played together in the yard, learning that friendship was possible across racial lines. Young Apache men learned ranching techniques that could help their tribes become economically independent. White settlers learned Apache skills for surviving in the harsh desert environment. When Eduardo grew old enough to understand, Sam told him the full story of how the Apache tattoos had changed their family's destiny. The boy traced the faded designs with his small fingers, marveling at the idea that pictures on skin could carry so much power. "Will I get Apache tattoos too, Papa?" Eduardo asked one day. Sam smiled and looked at Maria, who nodded her approval. "When you're old enough to understand what they mean, son. When you're ready to carry the responsibility that comes with them." "What responsibility?" "The responsibility to build bridges instead of walls," Sam replied. "To choose understanding over fear. To remember that courage isn't about winning fights. It's about preventing them." As the sun set on another peaceful day at the Carter Ranch, Sam reflected on the strange journey that had brought him to this place. He had started as a simple cowboy looking for his stolen wife. The Apache tattoos on his arms had transformed him into something he never expected to become, a man who belonged to two worlds and could speak for both of them. In the distance, an Apache war cry echoed across the desert, but it was no longer a sound of threat and violence. It was the call of young warriors returning home from a successful hunt, their voices raised in celebration of life rather than death. Sam Carter smiled and touched the sacred markings on his arms one more time. The tattoos had indeed become his salvation, but they had saved much more than just his life. They had helped save the peace between two peoples who had almost destroyed each other in their fear and misunderstanding. And in the end, that was a legacy worth any amount of pain and sacrifice.